This is my video on Corktown, Motown, and Jimmy Hoffa. Starting off with Corktown, it is the oldest existing neighborhood in Detroit to this day, and its population was originally started from Irish immigrants fleeing from the potato famine in Ireland at this time, and it was named after County Cork, which is a city in Ireland. The come up of Corktown is really just started like any other normal city. Houses started to be built. Originally, they were detached homes and row houses. They were built in sort of a federal layout style. And as population became larger, more houses were being built, and two-story Victorian homes were being constructed. And in the late, or just in the 1890s in general, the Irish population continued to grow. But they weren't the only people in Corktown at this time, especially after World War One, since the auto industry created a boatload of jobs. Following the need for these jobs, people from the island Malta actually came to live in Corktown. Mexicans came over, and many other people. And after World War Two, plans were actually made to demolish a lot of homes and businesses to build up factories. The plans never went through, but the Lodge Freeway was built, which was another big problem for this area. With the creation of this freeway, a lot of the homes and businesses and residential areas were destroyed. And with what remains of Corktown today was added to the NROHS, which is the National Registry of Historic Places. It was added in 1978, and it was designated as a historic district of Detroit in 1978. Corktown today, it was once the Tigers' home stadium, but it's now not there. It was demolished in 2009. Many businesses are starting to move back to Corktown and that area, and it's coming alive again. More people are spending time in Corktown, and Michigan Central Station is what is pictured. It was actually purchased by Ford last year. Who knows what they will do with it? Maybe they'll make it look nice again. Next is Motown. The beginning of Motown is Berry Gordy Jr., which is the founder of Motown Records, actually bought a house in Detroit, which we know of as today's Hitsville, USA. He bought the property in 59, lived on the second floor of the building at this time too. And in 59 to 66, Motown, his company, actually bought the other neighboring 7 houses. Each house had a different job, one for managing, one for a studio. Each house had a specific job for the company, and they needed it and they used it. Their time in Detroit was from 1959 to 1972. On April 14th, 1960, they teamed up with Tamla Records to create Motown Record Corporation. And from 1961 to 1971, Motown was actually able to get 110 top 10 hits. And they operated many labels: Miracle, Soul, Motown, Tamla, and VIP. Famous artists, they had many well-known artists under their labels: Jackson 5, the Four Tops, Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson, and they had diverse genres like country, hip hop, rap, and rock. And growing the company, in the 1960s, they branched off to different areas. They bought offices in New York and in Los Angeles in the late 60s and early 70s. They explored many other genres, like I previously stated, I think to gain a bigger audience and possibly more artists to sign with their label. And after many years in the 80s and 90s, they were losing artists. They were leaving to go to different labels and they weren't coming back. Some did come back for special albums or just for a few year period, but they were losing a lot of artists. And in 2005, they combined with Universal Records to make Universal Motown Records. But in 2011, they split from Universal Records and went back to their own name as Motown Records. And lastly is Jimmy Hoffa. He was born in Indiana in 1913, and just 11 years later is when he moved to Detroit with his family. He left school at a very young age to start working in labor jobs to support him and his family. And at a young age, at 23, he married his wife Josephine. They had 2 children, one Barbara, and 2 was actually James Hoffa. The union beginning, he worked at a grocery store as a teenager, and underpaid, poor conditions, and no job security were big problems. And a lot of his coworkers felt the same and actually wanted to start creating a union to fight back. Jimmy found out about this and he stood up and he became the leader of that union. He also became an organizer for the local 299 of the Teamsters in Detroit. The come up of the Teamsters, they were founded in 1903 and were around 75,000 strong in 1933. And once Hoffa became the leader in just 3 years, in 1936, he added 100,000 members. 3 years after that, he added 420,000. And after World War II, became over 1 million strong. He got people like truck drivers and warehousemen involved in the union, and many others. And he also made the presence of the Teamsters well known in many other Midwestern states. Criminal offenses in the early 1960s, JFK's younger brother Robert was actually the Kennedys were actually trying to get him in jail. They succeeded with in 1964. He was sentenced to 8 years for as a with a bribery sentence and fraud, and he illegal pensions to other crime figures, and he also had more another 5 years added on to that a few months after for more bribery charges. And in 1967, he started to serve his 13-year sentences altogether at Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary, which is located in Pennsylvania. And actually, on December 23rd of 1971, his 13 years were cut short by President Nixon releasing him from the prison. And some people think that Nixon was paid by the Teamsters to do this, or Hoffa and the Teamsters and Nixon's had some type of deal going on. And the Teamsters did endorse Nixon at this time for his campaign runs. So there's a lot of speculation about that, but it did happen. And his disappearance on July 30th of 75, he disappeared from the Red Fox restaurant parking lot. He was there to meet two other mafia leaders, and he was declared legally dead on July 30th, 1982. When he was at the Red Fox, he kept in contact with his wife, telling her he'd be home at a certain time or this and that, and he didn't show up. So his younger son eventually made a missing persons report. The FBI got involved and everything like that, and they couldn't figure out for the longest time who killed him, what killed him, or where his body even is located. And we still do not know to this day where his body is located. But since his disappearance or um, legally declared death, his son James actually became the leader of the Teamsters, and to this day, he is still the leader of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. And that is my presentation.